I think it is such an honor to be here celebrating with UMOS, celebrating in Wisconsin, and recognizing and commemorating the life of César Chávez in a way that I think I would hope we are continuing the work and the spirit that he embodied, which is continuously recognizing and honoring and cherishing our farm workers, our meatpacking workers, our workers who, as both Lupe and Jose mentioned, are so important and were critical always, but particularly took incredible hardship during the pandemic to make sure that we all had the privilege to be able to continue to eat during that time. So I'm honored to join you today commemorating the life and legacy of César Chávez. César Chávez dedicated his life to fighting for the rights and opportunities of workers and Latinos across the United States. His work continues to inspire people to band together to advocate for safer workplaces, livable wages, and immigration reform. Many of these efforts are rightly focused in the agricultural sector, where workers continue to fight for better labor protections and other essential rights. The Biden-Harris administration and USDA recognize farm and food workers as essential to America's rural livelihood, America's urban livelihood, and really essential to America's food system and our economy. Farm workers are core to what we do. We know that millions of farm workers are working every day tirelessly and around the country to contribute to our agricultural and our food economy, which contributes $2.7 trillion to our U.S. gross domestic product. We can't achieve this without our critical workforce, our workforce that is so precious, so important, and must be valued. And so we're excited today with UMOS in partnership to be able to talk about a program, this new program that we have at USDA, the Farm and Food Worker Grant Relief Program, as a core part. But I want to also say that at USDA, we're doing even more. This program is really important because we want to, today is a moment, and I think every day is a moment to take stock of the critical sacrifices and hardship that farm workers, that food workers, that meat processing and other processing workers took during the pandemic, coming to work every single day. And when many of us had the privilege of being able to work remote. We want to acknowledge this hardship, and so this program, the $670 million that we have through this program, in partnership with organizations around the country, including UMOS, we're committed to giving relief and helping to support that workforce that has been so critical and so important to all of us. At the beginning of the pandemic, we talked about our critical infrastructure, we talked about our critical workforce, and our critical workforce showed up. Our farm workers, food workers showed up and continued to work and to support agriculture and food and do the great work that they did. And this program is really about recognizing that there were many sacrifices in doing so. And so this program is, I think, a very important acknowledgement and an important way to really give back and contribute to many of the contributions that farm workers and food workers have been so important to us. So as I mentioned, we are partnered with 15 organizations around the country. Jose mentioned how important it is that the organizations are working together. I think this is what is really unique and special about this program, in addition to the money that is so due to farm workers, is also that we're investing and we're partnering with locally based organizations like UMOS, who really have been providing critical relief for farm workers and food workers for decades. UMOS, when we talked earlier this morning, we heard about the many different programs that UMOS had, and those programs and this program fit so nicely together. So it's important that when we were looking at the organizations that we were partnering with that applied for the funding, that we were really partnering with place-based organizations who support farm workers, who have deep, deep roots on the ground and proven track records of outreach. So we're doing more, and I think as we recognize César Chávez Day, there's so much more that we can do. We have, of course, Administrator Altoro here, who is with rural housing, and the work that I think that we do across the board at USDA is very important, making sure that we have and are investing in housing for farm workers, housing for our critical workers around the country, particularly in rural America. Secretary Vilsack, when we talk about the work that we do at USDA, a key part of that, and a key part of what agriculture does, what farm workers do, is keeping rural America alive and thriving. That's no small feat. Rural America is struggling, and the work that we're doing under Secretary Vilsack and in the Biden-Harris administration is really about how do we reinvest in our rural communities, how do we reinvest in agriculture and small farmers and farm workers so that we can continue to have a thriving America all across the board. There's so much more work to be done. We talk as we're commemorating the life and legacy of César Chávez and so many other people who worked together to advocate for farm workers, for safety for farm workers, for pay for farm workers, for all of those things. Immigration reform is still due. We still are eager to see Congress pass immigration and critical things like that. We're also know that much more can be done at USDA as well as we band together to support farm workers. So I want to thank you for having me here. Thanks for your hospitality, and I look forward to continuing to engage and to celebrate the legacy of César Chávez, not only through the Farm and Food Worker Grant Program, but through really celebrating and the legacy of César Chávez through all of the farm workers who've come every day, and we have a couple here who I want to particularly thank, and I know on my own family's farm who showed up every single day to make sure that we continue to eat. So thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Well, please take the mic, sir. Buenos dias, everyone. An absolute privilege to be here this morning. How do I fit into this picture? First of all, let's make a really important introduction. Our state director, Julie Lassa, is here, and she's a very important component. If you want to know how you plug into USDA and all the resources we have, Julie Lassa is the key to all those resources. So please, if not anytime soon, before this meeting is, please find the time to meet with her, because she's very important to all that we do. In 1992, I received an award from UMOS. I don't know if many people know this, it's for Hispanic Youth of the Year. And it's kind of crazy. I was 17 years old back then. I turned 49 in 2 weeks from now. And what's impressive is that the reason why I wanted to bring UMOS and the award that I received from UMOS is that I didn't learn much about farm workers in that, but what I learned about was leadership. I think a lot of us can say that, is that Lupe taught me about servant leadership, about bold leadership, right? Like sometimes we need to stand into our own pants and say, you know what, it's okay, we gotta be bold. Como Latinos, we have to take our place and be very proud and strong so that we can grow national organizations out in Milwaukee. And so now, with that leadership that I was taught through Lupe and many of you that have invested in me, I am responsible for an organization that is probably one of the largest lending arms of rural housing in the nation. The portfolio that I'm responsible for is $188 billion. That's with a B. The reason why I bring that up is because the fact that President Biden and Secretary Vilsack has challenged us with a word, and the word is equity. The way I define equity is I say, who have we not served? Or who are we not serving? I'm gonna be honest with you, I know that we can do a better job in serving farm workers. I grew up in the city of Milwaukee, but did not learn the true power that is provided by our farm workers and the community that's created by them. I only knew about rural when it comes to Wisconsin, but in this job I've been traveling all over the United States and have been impressed about kind of like just the resilience that farm workers bring. We do speak about the food that is brought to our tables, but you know, we have this conversation about rural America sometimes losing populations, about being vacant and blight, but that's not happening. Did you not hear in the census that there has been a growth of those communities of color in the United States in every state? That is not anecdotal, that is real. And it's happening in rural America. We're seeing an explosion of Latinos across the United States and in rural America. We are filling in the jobs. We are bringing the food to our communities, and we're bringing resilience and life back to rural America. So, I am excited to be a part of this administration. My responsibility is to housing and community facilities. I'm going to work very hard at this component, this word called equity, to make sure that we continue to commit and obligate as many resources to the trending and changing demographics of rural America. So thank you.
Amazing speakers, aren't they? And to President Martinez and the entire UMOS board, I want to thank you for the opportunity to appear here today. No one knows you and your work. No one who knows you and your work is surprised at the selection as the lead local agency in the implementation of the Federal Farm and Food Workers Relief Program. It is a credit to the hard work that you do, and it will be a tangible benefit for our community, for so many. To Undersecretary Moffitt, on behalf of the Milwaukee Common Council and its first Latino president, I want to welcome you to our fine city. I also want to thank you for your commitment of your administration to listening and working to address the concerns of those for whom we all speak today. And I will let you know that your investment in this program, no one works harder in the entire U.S. working with our migrant community than UMOS. You can have that confidence. Our society, our nation owes a lot of debt, but often our collective memory is super short. It was only 3 years ago that the world seemed to be collapsing on itself due to the pandemic. People were scared, businesses were shutting down, and the governments were struggling to find ways to respond. Worse though, many of us panicked. Store shelves, once packed with goods, were suddenly empty, and it wasn't just toilet paper and hand sanitizer that we were in short supply. Vegetables, meat, cheese, milk, and other kinds of basic items seemed to vanish overnight in some areas. And we as a society looked very anxiously to those who provide these things to us every day. The meat processors, people working in dairy, and migrant laborers in the field. We needed them. And they responded. They worked when many did not. Sometimes they worked longer hours than they had ever before. And because they worked, and because of the economic disparities they've long endured, they paid a very high price in illness and sometimes death. It was a price well out of proportion with the rest of the population. We are forever in their debt. Our past, our present, and our future migrant workers. Let us not forget them. I honor them as I know everyone here today does. I am grateful that we have an administration willing to listen and to do what it can to see that this debt is paid and to see the contributions to this community made by its immigrant population are honored. We deserve it. I am certain I speak for the César Chávez Planning Committee, which I just have to give credit. We have so many city employees. I remember Gisela Juarez always talking about how we had to do things in our rotunda, and that City Hall belongs to the entire community, and we will celebrate César Chávez, and we've been doing it now for 8 years. And that was a labor of love from all the Latinos that worked at City Hall. And I'm certain that I speak for that planning committee when I say the timing of you coming here, Mr. Undersecretary, couldn't be better. His work is our work, continues. We will continue the fight. Si se puede. Welcome to Milwaukee, and thank you for being a part of all the celebrations here in Milwaukee today. Thank you so much.